LeBron James may have taken the coward's way out by joining the Miami Heat, guaranteeing championships but limiting his potential in the process. And the way he went about free agency was needlessly cruel to the people of Cleveland who have supported him for years. But there is a silver lining here, and as a fan of basketball, I'm not going to ignore it. The union taking place down in Miami is simply unprecedented. I believe it presents the opportunity for something we've never seen before. Dwyane Wade is, by any standards, at 28 years old as of right now, one of the 3 best players in the league. He's an elite scorer, good for at least 25 points a game, the best passing shooting guard in the league right now with 6 or 7 dimes a game, a solid rebounder with 5 a game, and an elite perimeter defender. Nobody slashes to the rim quite like Wade does right now, and nobody has a mid-range jumper game quite like Wade at the shooting guard position. 25-year-old LeBron James was, quite simply, the most coveted free agent in the history of the NBA until last night. Good for around 30 points a game, more than 8 dimes a game, along with 7 rebounds, elite perimeter defense, and the ability to score from anywhere on the court. There's nobody quite as dominant as LeBron is. And rounding out this trio is the currently 26-year-old Chris Bosh, one of the 15 best players in the league right now, and quite possibly the best second option in the league. At 24 points a game, he is both capable of scoring in the low post around the rim and stepping out to hit mid-range to even long-range jumpers. Coming off a year where he averaged nearly 11 rebounds a game, we also know he knows how to pick up boards. And at about 2.5 assists per game, we also know he's a decent passer out of the low post. So you're getting quite a few things with Bosh, one of the elite power forwards in this league. There is a very strong argument to make that this Miami Heat team has united the 2 best players in the league in LeBron James and Dwyane Wade. Now, when was the last time that the 2 best players in the league were playing on the same team in the NBA? To my recollection, it has happened once and only once. In 2001 and 2002, Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal were arguably the 2 best players in the league. And then ask yourself, who was the 3rd best player on that squad? Maybe it was Rick Fox, maybe it was Robert Horry, maybe Derek Fisher. Regardless, none of those guys are half the player that Chris Bosh already is and is going to be. Now, think about the greatest championship-winning threesomes in NBA history. What names come to mind? Let's list a couple of my favorite. The 49-50 Lakers boasted George Mikan, Jim Pollard, and Vern Mickelson. The 64-65 Celtics had Sam Jones, John Havlicek, and Bill Russell. The 66-67 Philadelphia 76ers with Wilt Chamberlain, Hal Greer, and Chet Walker. How about the Milwaukee Bucks in 1971? Young Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, aging Oscar Robertson, and rounding it out, Bob Dainridge. The next year in 72, you had Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain, and Gail Goodrich on the Lakers. Those 83 Sixers had Moses Malone, Dr. J, and Andrew Toney to boast for their big 3. The 86 Celtics, of course, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. The most well-known big 3 of all time, quite possibly. The Lakers of the 80s, quite specifically 1987, boasted a prime Magic Johnson, James Worthy, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You had the 89 Pistons with Isaiah Thomas, Adrian Dantley, and Joe Dumars. Of course, you had the Chicago Bulls of the 90s featuring Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. You had the Spurs of this decade going to work with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. And just a couple years ago, you had the Boston Celtics going to work with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen. These are the greatest big 3s in the history of the NBA. And none of them are as good as this big 3 will be if they can win a championship. Go through that list. How many occurrences can you find of arguably the 2 best players in the league being in a big 3? And then you have to include the fact that the third member of that big three is one of the top 15 players. It just has not happened before. It's happening right now, and I fully believe this big three should be better than any big three before it. Those are the stakes right now in Miami, and again, as a basketball fan, that is what maintains my interest. This is unprecedented. We have a chance to see something that has never happened before, and even though I don't love everything that happened yesterday when LeBron chose Miami, I do love that part of it. However, they must win a championship first, and they can't do that on their own. To me, building a championship team is like putting together a puzzle. Specifically in terms of players, I'm talking about an 8-piece puzzle. And right now, Miami has 5 of those pieces. So let's run those down and discuss the remaining 3. Let's start at the top with role number 1, which I like to call the other guard. This role is currently filled by Mario Chalmers. The other guard does not need to be a great player. What he needs to do is be able to complement the skill set of the star guard and be able to take advantage of the opportunity he's going to get. Examples of this role include Derek Fisher, Steve Kerr, John Paxson, and Brian Shaw. I believe Mario Chalmers is adequate for this role. Not much more, but I think he's just right. What does he bring to the table as a player? I see 3 things that he can do well. First is three-point shooting. I think he's actually going to be a much better three-point shooter this year than he was last year. But until we know it for sure, suffice to say that last year, even though he didn't play that much, he still took 236 three-pointers. Now, he only made 32% of them, which is not very strong, so we'll give the Miami Heat half a point in the three-point shooting category. I think we'll be able to give them a full point courtesy of Mario Chalmers when the year starts, but until we're sure, we're going to play it safe. Skill number 2 is free throw shooting. He doesn't get to the free throw line all that often, but when he gets up there, he can knock down around 75% of them, which is pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a full point for free throw shooting here. He's not a great slasher or anything, not somebody who's going to get to the line a lot, but when he does get to the line, you can pretty much depend on him to knock it down. The final skill he brings is at least partially perimeter defense. Last year, even though he was off, he still averaged about 1.3 steals per game, 13th in the league among point guards, even though he did not play that many minutes on the whole. And last year, his rookie year that is, he had 2 steals per game, one of the best in the league. So while he may not be a shutdown perimeter defender, he is a playmaking defender, and for that I think we can give Miami half a point in that area as well. Role number 2, which I believe needs no introduction, is the star guard. Examples of this position include Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Dwayne Wade certainly fills this role to a T. Now let's look at what Dwayne Wade brings us. He is an elite slasher. He gets to the free throw line more than 9 times per game, 4th in the league last year. So he's certainly worth a full point in the slashing category. He's an elite shooter, good for over 26 points a game last year, 5th in the league, and was 2nd in the league in shooting percentage among shooting guards behind only Ray Allen. So he is certainly an elite shooter. Then there is three-point shooting. He takes quite a few threes, took nearly 250 last year. Now, he's not the best percentage-wise, only 30% last year, and for his career around 31%. So whether or not the threes go down is a little more hit or miss. We'll give Miami half a point here just because he does take them and sometimes he does knock them down. The other skill is free throw shooting. 76% last year on more than 700 free throws. Not elite, but quite good, enough for a point. Next would be perimeter rebounding. He averages close to 5 rebounds per game for his career and close to that last season. 6th among shooting guards. He's also the best offensive rebounding shooting guard in the league. So as far as perimeter rebounding goes, Wade needs to be given a full point. And then we have passing. Dwayne Wade is quite simply the best passing shooting guard in the league, and really it's not that close. He's the 10th best passer in terms of dimes in the league and the best among SGs. He's also got a solid 2.0 assist to turnover ratio, 9th among shooting guards. So I consider him to be the best passing shooting guard in the league, so we're going to give Miami a point there as well. And finally, perimeter defense. He's considered to be a fairly lockdown defender, but statistically this also shows up. He is the best blocking front court player in the league with over 1 per game, and he averages close to 2 steals per game, which was good for 4th in the league last season. Stay tuned for my next video, and I will wrap up my full analysis of the Miami Heat next season.